Greg was big on that after the Colombia game, saying that he felt we didn't respect soccer and we didn't respect the opponents. And I agreed.
We won't get away with that in the tournament.
The wake-up calls when we got 5 goals scored on us. So that was a wake-up call.
I think we've learned a lot from both those games, and we've also learned a lot from these past few weeks of training.
The intensity always has to be the starting point for our team.
We're going to take it game by game and push as hard as we can. Yeah, we're ready to go.
We very much want to make a statement.
There's no bad blood, just good energy, and we're all supporting each other.
We know we can make a deep run in this tournament.
When everyone performs at a high level, runs for each other's, battles for each other's, wins their duels, we're going to have a chance against any opposition.
We're competing for a trophy, so the way to feel successful is obviously to win that trophy and hold it at the end.
U.S. men's national team opening up Sunday in Dallas against Bolivia. Greg Berhalter and company hoping to get off to a strong start against a Bolivia team that's lost its last 12, count them 12, Copa games. Our Alexis Nunez on the ground in Texas. Today she spoke with Matt Turner and Tim Ream.
Final question. I'm sure you guys know it. You've known it for some time now. Expectations are high, especially when you're at home. Do you give yourself a target? Because speaking to some fans, they're saying semifinal or anything less doesn't really feel like a success.
I mean,
that rhymed.
We're competing for a trophy, so the way to feel successful is obviously to win that trophy and hold it at the end. So for us in the locker room, that's a pretty common feeling, and yeah, that'll be our aims. But we know that we can only. That's sort of our guiding North Star, but we know that it takes one game at a time, one performance at a time, and just pursuing that consistent excellence from each other, whether it be training, whether it be games, and I feel like if we can do that, we can be proud of wherever we finish.
Honestly, it's probably the closest national team that I've ever been a part of, and that's saying a lot. I've been a part of the program for 14 years now, and the biggest thing is that they're more vocal with each other. They're more demanding of each other, and we're more readily getting onto each other to keep standards high and keep the focus high, and I think that's been the biggest growth, because when you're younger, you can tend to shy away and maybe take a back seat and let others do the talking, but there's a lot of guys in here now who are happy to speak up and happy to push each other and push other guys to be even better.
USA against Bolivia from Arlington, Texas, from the home of America's team, from the home of Ale Moreno's Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, okay. Not a whole lot of winning going on over there.
USA and Bolivia getting ready to throw down.
At least in games that matter, not a whole
Copa
lot.
America Group C. U.S. kicking off their Copa America campaign in less than 24 hours against Bolivia. Let's hand out some superlatives. Maybe not superlatives. Titles. As we break down this roster, who do you think is the U.S. player, Herc, under the most pressure ahead of tomorrow's opener?
This one is easy for me. This would be Folarin Balogun. Let me tell you about Folarin Balogun. Everybody is hot on Folarin Balogun, excited about this player who scored more than 20 goals in a top 5 league. Comes to the U.S. men's national team, and you're waiting for that signature moment. You're waiting for him to explode like you know he can. Crisp runs, good hold-up play, links well, but just hasn't been that player for the U.S. men's national team. He needs to be that player for the U.S. men's national team. Behind him, you have players who are hard on your heels. You've got a Ricardo Pepi, who was in Eredivisie and the Champions League scoring goals. You've got a player like Haji Wright. When he's come on, he's done well. Josh Sargent, who they're aching to get fit. They're waiting for him. One of the guys who was at the World Cup, who was the starter. They're 9 at the World Cup. Folarin Balogun right now, while he's still the de facto starter, he's still the guy you're going to play. If he doesn't heat up, if he doesn't do something to convince Greg Berhalter and these fans, he could be odd man out.
How confident are you we're going to see him in the starting lineup against Bolivia?
Yeah, I think we will see him in the starting lineup against Bolivia. He's a player that Greg has given a lot of confidence to. And every time that Greg's brought him in, he's been that starter. Whether it goes right or wrong for him, that's a different case. But with Greg Berhalter, he's going to get the benefit of the doubt.
All right, most pressure, Balogun. What about X Factor? Who's picking on this U.S. team for the X Factor? Okay.
Giovanni Reyna, come on down. Listen, X Factor, you got to be a special player. And when you talk about special players, when you talk about the ceilings, there are a few players that have a ceiling and that special X, that it factor, like Giovanni Reyna. Whether he's out wide or in the middle, it's going to be the middle. He's that guy that can create something out of nothing, whether it's his own goal or whether it's a finishing ability. We've seen it in important matches. We've seen it in the CONCACAF Nations League final versus Mexico. We've seen it twice in those finals versus Mexico, creating goals, scoring goals. He interchanges in that space very well in the midfield and the outside players. He's a player that has great vision, a finishing ability, and I think there are a few players on that field that when others can't do it, can create something for himself and be that X factor.
And I gotta imagine in a game against Bolivia, if they're smart, they're gonna sit back, they're gonna try and get a couple lines behind the ball. Gio's the kind of player that can find the pockets and then find the spaces that can maybe break Bolivia down, force them to open up and give yourself the type of game that the U.S. really wants to be playing. All right, things don't always go well. We know at times Greg Berhalter has been a genius bringing guys off the bench. Who do you think in this tournament will have the biggest impact off the bench?
It's Haji Wright, the guy that's proven to have that impact with the U.S. men's national team off the bench. Let's go back to the World Cup, Seb. Let's go back versus the Netherlands in that game in the second round. Who was the guy that scored the goal off the bench? It was Haji Wright.
He's told us on this show he didn't mean to.
Hey, a goal's a goal. Give it to me. I will take it. A goal is a goal. Who's the guy that under Greg Berhalter, when he calls him up, he's about to go to a beach with his girlfriend on vacation. Hey, I need you. Josh Sargent is hurt. Comes in and saves Greg Berhalter versus Jamaica. Not with one, but 2 goals. It's Haji Wright. Who's the guy in the last game we saw, a game where it didn't go very well for the U.S. men's national team versus Colombia, that changed the game, the complexion for the U.S. men's national team going forward? It was Haji Wright, and it will continue to be Haji Wright, whether at 9 or out wide.
Well, that's my question. Is it 9 or is it out wide where he's going to make this supposed impact off the bench?
I mentioned that Folarin Balogun's got a lot of pressure on him. That's because, and you know I'm a massive Josh Sargent fan, but Josh Sargent hasn't been available. And while he's not been available, guess who has been available and very good for the U.S. men's national team? Haji Wright. Haji Wright has done it. I would lean right now as Haji Wright as my starter. Young, hungry, he's hot. I mean, in the championship level, FA Cup versus Man United, whatever the case may be, Wolves, he was scoring goals. Comes to the U.S. men's national team, he is scoring goals. I like a hot hand. Haji Wright is a hot hand.
All right, all this up here, it's nice.
Yes.
Everybody on the team wants to be this guy, the most important player. Who is the most important player at Copa America for the U.S. men?
There can only be one. And it's no surprise. It's Christian Pulisic.
It wasn't always so easy to pick this, was it? There was a time when we would talk Tyler Adams, we would name other people.
Yes.
Now it's Pulisic and no one else.
They're just saying that it's better to be available than good. Christian Pulisic has been both for the U.S. men's national team. Tyler Adams hasn't been available. Christian Pulisic has. Christian Pulisic, when you think about Greg Berhalter's most important moments with this U.S. men's national team, the finals, those World Cup moments, who's been at the helm of that? Who's been spearheading that charge? It's Christian Pulisic. Whether it's goals or assists, this guy always proves his worth, and we spoke about it. When it wasn't happening at Chelsea, when he wasn't playing, he would use the U.S. men's national team as a refresher. There are a few players that I've seen in my lifetime that once they put that jersey on, they convert themselves into something else. Christian Pulisic is one of those players.
Yeah, when he wasn't playing well at club or wasn't playing at club, he would still play well with the national team. Yeah. Now he's coming off his best season at club. You got to figure he's going to be playing well with the national team. I think plus 115 anytime goal scorer against Bolivia. You like that? Quick question for you here as we think about the game. What's your worry from a U.S. perspective about Bolivia? Because we've been talking about Bolivia. They're not that good. They have a terrible record. They have a terrible history recently in this competition. So what's the fear?
So when you play a team that has nothing to lose because they are used to losing, they have one win in the nine Copa America editions, is that you get complacent. You think you're supposed to win. You go in there overconfident. You don't do the things that you normally do. And maybe it's you get a result. Maybe you don't. But it's the way you go about it that shakes that confidence. A team that got rocked by Colombia, that regained that confidence against Brazil, you can ill afford to not start out the right way.
U.S.-Bolivia, Sunday from Arlington, Texas. Team USA playing at the home of America's team with Captain America running the show. Here you get a look at some of his partnerships. No surprise, Weston McKennie among his favorite targets.